Okay, here's the Daily Tangle Danza, D-A-N-Z-A. I did it already on black tile, so this is sort of part 2. I'm going to do it on a white tile and not nearly as complex as I did it on the black tile. So I'm just going to do the basic step out. I'm going to do step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And I'm not going to get so carried away with the overlap as the sample. And I may do 1 or 2 of them, but I'm not going to get quite so carried away. So, or if I do overlap, I will do them as separates instead of trying to get them connected together. I tried to connect them together like the sample shows, which I've just got off screen. Okay, the sample shows. And I really like it. I like what I did, but it was made it much more complicated and advanced than a beginner pattern. And I think this would be an easy beginner pattern, so I'm going to go ahead and do it this other way as well. So start with 2 circles. I'm probably going to do at least 2 of these, so I'll put this a little offset. I'm not going to do it right in the middle. 2 circles. Got it? Circles. Do an S shape. Kind of like you're doing cadent. If you've done cadent, it's a similar shape. And then take it and do that shape again, but aura. And then cross over and aura around like that. Got it? So it's like a ribbon. And then you want to do it again. All right. And then one more time. You want to do 4 lines. The important part is not how far apart this crossover is. The important part is that all those lines cross over in the same spot. That's the important part. Okay, so the next step is to do a petal right here and right here. Right there, that's your starting spot for making these swirly petals. So then you just build your petals up and around. This petal, I don't want to draw. This petal is going to come up and around and go this way. And this petal is going to come up and around and go this way. You want to end right there at that intersection. So they can be as big as you want them to be coming out this way, but you want to make them smaller as you get to this point. Same thing here. They can come out. They can be as big as you want them to be, but they need to be smaller at this point. So I'm going to come up and I'm going to comb around like that. Up and around. Turn your tile as you need to, up and around. They can be as close together as you want or as far apart as you want. They can come up bigger. They can go down a little lower. Just make sure that they have this little bit of a curve to them at the top so that the petals, that sort of overlapped petal shape emerges. And just kind of space them out however you feel that they need to be spaced. You want big wide ones, you can make big wide ones, see? Just changes the look a little bit. Just as you come down toward this point, just make them smaller. All right? And then do the same thing with this one. Just start there, come up and around, up and around. I want these really big. I want nice big huge petals over here at this side. So I'm going to make them big. Why? Because I have this room, I have this space I can use. If I didn't have the space I could use, I could make tiny little ones. It's alright, either way will work. I can make them tall and skinny. Make them a little fatter. Just as I'm getting closer to this end, I need to make them smaller so that they go spiral in. That's the basic shape of this pattern called Danza. Really cool. I really like it. And I think I will do another one that kind of overlaps, but I'm not going to try to interconnect them like I did with the other one, which made it way too complicated. I don't have any idea why I made it so complicated. So I'm going to do another one right here. I'm going to do a circle here, and I'm going to do a circle here. I'm going to make like an S shape. I'm going to come around and decide that I want it to cross right there. And then as long as the rest of them cross in that same place, doesn't really make any difference whether they're a big wide shape or a narrow shape. See, I made that one really wide. Whatever your pen decides it's going to do. And then start where this, you just want to start your petals coming out of this thing and curving this way, and then the same thing with this one, coming out and curving this way. And then this one, because it's so close to this one, they will go under and they'll overlap. Okay, so I'm going to do this side first. Come up and around. Up and around. Got it? Up and around, up and around. Make sure you turn your page. That's important, to turn your page as you need to, so that you're not making your hand turn in a funny direction. I'm trying really hard to make sure that my fingers aren't in the way so that you guys can see how I'm drawing. I know I'm not always successful with that, but I'm trying. Problem is not because with my new camera, I love my new camera, I can see where I am, so I'm not like drawing off the side of the page like I was before. So that's a big improvement. However, I can't draw and look at the screen at the same time because I need to look at where my fingers are going and where my pen is headed. So I'm assuming that you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm going to turn this around so that it's easier for me. Give it a starting spot. And up and around, up and around. I'm going to make this really big. This one just decided it's going to get really, really big and tall right here. Why? I don't know. It just has decided. Probably because it wants to kind of come up and out from behind that one. Okay, and there it would be, normally it would be up and around, and you don't see any of that, but you still have to put that line in at the bottom. Up and around, right? Otherwise it would look funny. Up and around. Up and around. And around, see, that's where the curve would be. And up and around, and now it's got to get smaller because it's getting closer to that bottom one there. But that one is very much under that one, just slightly. Okay, there we go. I've got two of them. They're next to each other. one is over the other one. This is the pattern called Danza, D-A-N-Z-A. I'm going to sign my work. Don't forget to sign your work. And now I'm going to give it a little bit of shading. Shading. Where am I shading first? I'm shading my overlap first, because that gives me an idea where I want the rest of my shadows to go. Great thing about Zentangle is I can turn this any direction. It's still right side up no matter how I turn it, right? Point of shading is to give it like a sort of a 3D effect, but it doesn't have to be necessarily accurate as to real life how shadows would be. It just gives you gives your eye that 3D look. And make sure that you always are using a blending tool of some sort, whether it's a Q-tip or your blending stump or your finger, which just makes a mess. But you know, find a tool. A tool would be better to do your shading. See, look at that already. That makes such a world of difference. Look at that one compared to that. Already it's starting to look bolder. I am going to say that the middle of this needs shading like that. I'm going to start with that. Right? Yeah. And then I'm going to say that these need shading coming out this way just a little bit. And I am going to emphasize these little bumps here, just at the edge. It all needs a bit of dark right here where they're kind of coming together, especially down there. This has got to be really dark because it kind of is what I see is the deepest part of the piece. Okay. See, if you shade right by those little petals, all of a sudden the petals look more real and rounded. Doesn't take much, but can you see the difference? Can you see the difference between that one? Oops, it's not focused. There we go. And that one. There's a difference. And on my black and white, most of the time I have to shade. I just have to. It's like an obsession. Now I know people whose work is just so flawless. I've seen their work and they're just absolutely gorgeous, and they don't do much shading, and that's cool. That's, you know, you do whatever you feel like is best for you. I just say that for me personally, I have to do this shading because that's just what feels right in my work. But you do whatever you want. This is your art. You want to color this in? You want to make it bright and bold and colorful and use some really cool pops of color? You know, that would be awesome. I can see this pattern with like rainbowy thing, or this one being one color and this one being a different color, contrasting, so they pop against each other. I can see it being colored in. I can see it being used as a coloring page. Make a big one on a big 8x10 page and use it as a coloring page. Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. There's nothing that says that you can't experiment and do different things with your Zentangles. I can see this one as being sort of maybe a free-form quilt pattern, you know? Can you imagine having this swirly design sewn as the binding of a quilt? I don't know exactly the right term because I'm not a quilter, but you know what I mean. When they're sewing all their layers together and they use one of those big machines. Yeah, those ones. Those very, very talented ladies who can do free-form quilting like that. Oh my goodness. Can you imagine a pattern like this on the free-form quilting? Zentangle is not limited, at least not in my opinion. Maybe the official Zentangle is limited, but what people have evolved this art form into is not limited, and patterns themselves are not limited to just using them in a black and white square tile art form. So if you're doing it on other types of media or in different colors or textures, or drawing on unusual substances, like I did some work on a flower pot. I just drew my Zentangle patterns on a flower pot and embellished it that way. All those things are awesome. Awesome way to share your art. Does not have to stay in a square in black and white. But if it is in a square in black and white, that's cool too. Do whatever makes your heart feel happy. Art should be happy and not stressful. And when your art becomes stressful, something's wrong. And then you need to stop and you need to figure out what it is that's going on in your life that's causing the stress, because art should not be stressful. And if it's just that you're being perfectionistic, well then just, do something else that gets rid of that that helps to get rid of that perfectionistic thing. And I know that I'm saying things that sound like they're like really crazy and you can't imagine even trying. Because I was at that place at one point. I was very much into making sure everything looked exactly right. Me and my grand ideas and my over exuberant art projects, they always had to be bigger and better and more over the top, and I had these visions, and then sometimes it would be frustrating when these visions didn't do what I wanted them to do, or they were much harder than I had anticipated. And it sometimes my art was very frustrating to me. And through this process of Zentangle and through this process of teaching other people, I am learning to let go of my mistakes. If I do this all live, well, it's not really live because, it's recorded. But if I do this unedited and I make my mistakes as I go along and I own them and I embrace them and I go with the flow, the more I'm doing this, the more comfortable I'm becoming. And the more I'm letting go. There we go. Look at that. I really like this tile. This one's making me happy. So what I'm trying to tell you guys is that, your art needs to be things that make you happy, and you need to just let loose and let it go. And I think I'm going to do this, just reminded me of a way to just kind of let it go and to do something totally out of the box. And I just thought of it, and I'm going to go ahead and make that as my next video. My next one is not going to be a specific pattern. It is going to be something else entirely. So stay tuned, everybody. But anyway, here is the one called Danza. There's my little black and white one, which is absolutely stunning, and I love it. Yes, I am appreciating my own artwork. You can do that. If you find one that you really love, embrace it and love it. Love your pages. Love your pages. Even the ones you don't like. Love them anyway, because they're a lesson and they're something that you learned. Absolutely.